Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. All righty, it's JJ, and I am excited about today's show because I have one of my buddies of, 15 years or so back on the show because he is so amazing. He really, to me, is like the foremost expert in women's metabolism and exercise. We kind of bonded early on because we're both fascinated with the hormonal effects of exercise. And both when we were both in school, like when I was in grad school, there was no information about hormones and exercise, zero. The first textbook came out a couple of years later. I make it sound like I'm 100 years old, but it wasn't that long ago that we just weren't even talking about, cortisol and what happened when you did, long exercise sessions, all that. So it's exciting today because we're going to be talking about estrogen and growth hormone and cortisol and how to really dial in your exercise, which hint means exercise a lot less. And some of the great things that you should be doing instead, believe me, you're going to like it. I'm talking spa time. Yes, I am. That will really make the big difference on you being able to burn fat. So I got my buddy, Dr. Jade Teta, returning to the show. He's an integrative physician, author, and sought-after expert in the realm of metabolism and self-development. He's the founder and creator of the international health and fitness company Metabolic Effect and the author of several books, including the bestsellers Metabolic Effect Diet and Metabolic Aftershock. He's written a lot of books with his brother, Keone, who's also a pal. Anyway, he is just a wealth of knowledge. This is a phenomenal interview where you're going to learn why you shouldn't be working out like a dude and starving yourself. And you probably already figured out that doesn't work. All righty, Jade Teta, Dr. Jade Teta, that is. Welcome back to the show. It is so fun to have you here with me.
JJ, how are you? I love you, of course. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm going to say, I say it every time, but JJ has been one of the best things that's happened to me in this industry, taking such good care of me and been someone I've learned from. So I always love connecting with you, my dear.
Oh, thank you. So I'm excited to have you talk about like women's periods and menopause. And I was like, this will be fun. I got such a dude. Like, you're not just like a guy. You're not like a metro guy. You're a dude.
Yeah,
big, buff dude. And we're going to talk about women's hormonal cycles and life stage, all sorts of cool stuff around metabolism, which I get asked about all the time. So I was like, oh, Jade, you got to come on and yak about this. But why, how'd you get into talking about women's metabolism? I want to know first.
It is so funny, right? So, I mean, obviously, as JJ alludes to, I am a big, bald linebacker, muscular looking guy. And so it is funny to me and funny to most of the women that I do this work with that I am such an expert in this. But it really comes down to what you and I do, JJ. Most of the people I was working with in natural medicine were women. And so I had to figure out real quick, I'm a conscientious practitioner, and I had to figure out real quick what is going on with women that is so different than men, because I saw particular strengths and challenges that women had that were different from men, both for weight loss and in natural medicine. And so I just made myself a student of it and really was kind of in the beginning there sort of dragged along kicking and screaming by my female clients saying, look, you can't treat us like men. Stop doing that. And you need to figure us out. And so I did. And it's sort of been a really interesting thing.
Yeah, when hormonal women say that to you, you listen, don't you?
Exactly.
You're like, okay, don't hurt me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I became an expert, and I am better for it, of course.
Well, so how besides the obvious stuff, because I like to say, men are not hairy women, right?
Yep.
But I mean, here's what we women all know. We decide that we're going to get fit. We eat the same as our significant other. We work out the same. The guy gets ripped. He's losing weight like crazy, and we're sitting there and nothing's happening.
Yeah. Interesting because most of the research, and you know this, JJ, and I'm sure most of your listeners know this as well, but I'll just say it. Most of the research that is in and been done in nutrition and weight loss in terms of exercise has been done on young males. And so most of what gets passed down, trickled down into what we read about in books is male based. And so what has happened, I think part of that is that most women are doing male dominated programs. For example, the latest things right now are keto and intermittent fasting and things like that. These things can be highly beneficial for women, of course, but they are because of the way the female metabolism is built, which I'll explain in just a second, they can also be very tricky for women. And if you think about the metabolism as its major job is as a stress barometer, that's really what it is. It's one big stress barometer. And then you think the female is the gender of childbearing. That stress barometer has to be far more sensitive compared to a man. And so that begins the discussion of why women can cut carbs and end up with more cravings than a man will, or go on a keto diet and end up losing more muscle mass and having rebound weight gain as a result of that, because she is far more stress sensitive and can have more metabolic whiplash as a result of some of these diets. And so this is a big, big piece of it. It's one of many, but I think it's the biggest factor that most women deal with.
I always say men are like VW bugs and women are like, I don't know, DB9s. Aston Martins.
Yeah, yes, they are. They are the more delicate, refined, beautiful sports cars, whereas the men are sort of like the Ford trucks. Let's put it that way. You need to be a little more sensitive how you're not gonna take that Ferrari off road without thinking about it. And so I do think that is a pretty good analogy actually to look at for women. And here's the thing that I would say to women. I personally don't like the idea of saying that women struggle more, because they actually have more strengths. For example, women burn more fat at all exercise intensities compared to men. And that's because of estrogen. Women also, whereas men have more of a testosterone advantage when they exercise, women have more of a human growth hormone advantage with exercise. And the combination of estrogen and human growth hormone for women is where we want to focus our attention for fat loss. And most off-the-shelf programs don't do that. And so this is a really interesting thing for women. So you might think, oh, well, I'm a female who's having issues losing fat. The truth of the matter is you actually have strengths if you just make some subtle changes that are different from what, you and I, JJ, might tell a male to do.
What about, because the difference, one of the big, obviously, differences with women is like, not only do we cycle, then we have like, we're very different in our teens versus our 20s versus our 50s. And most of this audience, by the way, is probably perimenopausal, menopausal. We've got some right in them, but we've got some, people still probably having regular cycles too. So we're all over the map. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, well, so the interesting thing is the following, right? Once you understand as a woman that estrogen is an advantage for you.
Yeah, and I love that. That's like such a great thing to know, is that estrogen's an advantage. I mean, besides just for our brain.
It is a huge advantage for women. And here's what happens. It is insulin sensitizing. It speeds up metabolic rate. It has muscle building potential, just like testosterone does. And of course, it does cause fat loss around the middle of the body. It takes fat off the midsection. Now, of course, it slows fat release from the butt, the hips, the thighs, and the breast. But that's why you get that beautiful hourglass shape. Now, once you begin to hit perimenopause, you start to lose some of the estrogen and progesterone advantage, because estrogen starts to fluctuate in very high and then very lows. And what you get is a very volatile time. Remember, there's receptors for estrogen all over the body, not just in the uterus and ovaries, but in the brain and the adipose tissue in the muscle as well. And so what happens at this point in time is you're becoming more insulin resistant. You are losing some of your metabolic potential, and you're also having wild swings in brain chemistry that can cause cravings and things like this. And so what you have to understand is that, okay, now rather than maybe taking a more is better approach in terms of exercise and a less is better approach in terms of diet, you need to get much smarter. So in other words, now it's not just reduce carbohydrates to nothing. It's have enough, but not too much, sort of the Goldilocks effect. So maybe timing carbohydrates only around exercise and at night. That begins to make a difference for women during this time. And then with exercise, instead of doing all this high intensity interval training and tons of long duration cardio, we need to spend more time in relaxing yoga and Tai Chi and long relaxing walks. And so a lot of women during perimenopause don't realize that time in bed is probably better than time on the treadmill, and time walking the dog and smelling the roses might be better than high intensity interval workouts that may overly stress you. And so it becomes a fine tuning for women around perimenopause and menopause because of what's going on with estrogen.
I love hearing this too, because I must tell you, I've seen so many women that still subscribe to the whole bank account model of dieting. So they just keep trying to do more and more and more. And again, now it's gone not just to deprivation dieting, keto dieting. So they'll do CrossFit plus keto, and I see them just going completely downhill.
Yeah, I see the same exact thing that you're seeing, and that is because the metabolism is that stress barometer. When you stress it out too much, it is going to push back against you. So you and I have talked about this a lot, and I think we've done a lot to help educate people in this. But, the metabolism is most like a boomerang or a seesaw or a pendulum. It's basically pushes back against you when you stress it out. So there's a reason why your habit of cheesecake eating at night may be related to your habit of over exercising and over dieting the day before or all during the day. And people don't put these two things together. You push against the metabolism, it will push back against you. As a woman, you are extra sensitive to that. So I call it the metabolic credit card effect. We all know what using a credit card, you can get what you want, but you're going to have to pay penalties later. And so you have to be very, very careful at this time to keep stress off of the system. And so to me, the workouts that I like to do, and I call them workouts or recommend my female clients to do, especially around the age of perimenopause, are relaxing workouts like time in the sauna, time in an Epsom salt bath, time with your pets, as long as they're not peeing all over the place and stressing you out, time with loved ones, sex and physical affection, massage, all of these things, anything that lowers stress hormones. Most in particular, walking. The Japanese have done a ton of studies on slow walking. Matter of fact, they call it Shinrin Yoku, which means taking in the forest through walking. So they walk out into these forests, bathing under the greenery of forest and walking slowly. And what they find is that cortisol levels are reduced significantly, and it takes the stress burden off the metabolism. I mean, think about when you stress out the metabolism, what's it going to do? The only stress that it knows one stress primarily historically, and that is starvation. So stress to the metabolism, any type of stress, says starvation to some degree, and then let me hold on to the fat I have and accumulate more fat. And so we need to do everything we can to take stress off that metabolic system. The way to do that is to start looking at rest, recovery, recuperation activities, and do enough, but not too much, of the high intensity exercise stuff and the severe eating regime.
Yay. And everyone is standing up applauding you. You can't hear them, but they are. But but that's what I mean. My top thing, it's funny when I start to work with people, I say, we're going to work on diet first, and we'll start adding these things in. Let's just start by moving more. This is where you should get a dog, because you'll have to walk the dog. Then just incorporate in some interval training every other day. You don't do this every day, and then add a little resistance training, but make sure you're doing some restorative stretching and yoga. And it's just all that stuff's in sync. And, we've talked about exercise forever because when we both first started, there was no talk about what happened with hormones with exercise. More was more. And I look back in my 20s and what I used to do to work out in my 20s. I had 10% higher body fat, didn't have the muscle mass I have now, and I worked out 4 times harder. 2 hours a day of these workouts. Now it's like I go to the gym, it's 30 minutes is like a big workout, or 20 minutes at home. It's just short things and then walking the doggy.
JJ, I've seen the same. I've seen the same with women across the board. And that's why I say, and I know you've seen it, I've seen it. Men can get away with that to some degree. By the way, they start suffering the same thing as they get up into their late 40s, 50s, 60s. They can start running into issues too as they start to lose some of their testosterone. But again, we cannot, look at men and say, oh, we should be doing that. Younger men athletes can typically do the more is better thing for a time. I would even argue it's not best for them either, but definitely women who have this more sensitive, refined stress system need to be way more careful about that. So, what I would say is if we're talking about exercise, we need to make a distinction between what is just movement. You and I are now aware of the term NEAT, non-exercise associated thermogenesis, which is for everyone on the line, that just means activities of daily living. This is walking, this is getting out and moving. They're now showing in research that if you are an individual who moves all day and gets accumulated steps up, you're probably going to fare better in terms of weight loss and health than someone who sits all day, but then goes and does a workout. So again, you can move all day, not work out, and fare better than someone who sits all day and then goes and does a 30-minute workout. Mostly the reason behind that is because non-exercise associated thermogenesis, this activities of daily living, not only is it one of the biggest parts of our changeable metabolism, but it also sensitizes the body to insulin and lowers cortisol. So this is not a calorie burning phenomena. This is a hormonal related phenomena. And remember, as a woman, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the areas of the brain that hear your hormonal signals that then feed back to your ovaries, these have to remain sensitive and able to hear the hormonal orchestra that's going on in your body. And stress shuts that down. And so just walking and relaxing and spa time and sauna and manicures and pedicures and massage and all of these kinds of things are wonderful to do that. But how many people do we know that are planning those things the way they're planning their exercise and diet regimes? It's critical.
Awesome. So if you want to get fit, you need to get more manicures and pedicures and get in your sauna. There you go.
I would absolutely say that.
But I did my sauna last night, and I just, because I have a sunlight and sauna, and I just came back from a manicure, pedicure, and then I'm going to go walk the dog after this. So see, it is all there. And it's so critical because if you're not, I talk a lot about sleep, and sleep's going to have the same effect on your stress hormones. If you're stressed out, if you're not sleeping well, if you're going, you are going to struggle with your weight. You're going to have a belly because everyone always asks how to lose belly fat. And they think it has to be work out harder and eat less. And it's like, nope, that's not why you have belly fat in the first place.
I agree completely. And let's not get it twisted. For some people, they'll say, well, does that mean we don't exercise and eat at all? Of course, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, you absolutely want to put in the time. But here's what most people do. They say, oh, I got 7 days out of the week. I'll exercise, like I'll do high intensity interval training or crazy workouts 6 days out of the week. What I'm saying is bump that back to 3 times per week and add in walking every single day. And at perimenopause, you're probably going to see better results doing it that way. By the same token, instead of doing extreme workout or diet programs, right, where you're cutting carbs extremely and doing keto diets and all that, add enough, but not too much of these things. So I would say I'll give you a really simple thing, actually, for those who are looking for to-dos. Here's what to do in terms of diet. You want to focus on protein, fiber, and water foods to make sure that your hunger and your cravings are kept suppressed and you don't get a huge calorie load. Well, think of the 4 S's. It's soups, salads, scrambles, and shakes. Soup, salad, scrambles, and shakes. You can almost say it like a rhyme. Soup, salad, scrambles, and shakes. This is 90% of what you should be eating. That has water in it, vegetables in it, protein in it to satiate you. Then add enough, but not too much, of starch, sugar, fat, alcohol, those things. Enough to make your diet enjoyable, but not so much to push you over the edge. So that's another 10%. Then add on to that lots and lots of walking to reduce the stress burden, and 3 maybe high-intensity workouts per week. And now you're getting much closer to a female-specific fat loss program as women get into perimenopause and menopause versus the go, cut carbs down to nothing, do keto, all these crazy things that some of the younger guys and younger women are doing. Again, women are not men, no duh, but older, more mature women are also not younger women. And then each woman is, of course, unique. And so we need to become metabolic detectives in our ability to know how our metabolism is, what our psychology is, and what our personal preferences are. So I think what we really need to be thinking about is, how do I build a lifestyle to minimize stress and do enough, but not too much, with my diet and exercise?
Perfect. This is exactly what I teach everyone. I love having everything you're saying. I'm just smiling over here, because this whole idea of being a detective, or really connecting the dots beyond just what you eat and when you eat it, but also how you're moving, how you're living, so that you really see which things are working, which things aren't. But you're also designing both your diet and your exercise and your life around how you want to live. Like they always talk about, okay, the best time to exercise in the morning. Well, I hate exercising in the morning. I hate it. I don't, that's not when I want to do it in the morning. I want to sit, have coffee, do my journal, do my creative work. And then I want to do that in the afternoon. So I've designed those types of things to fit into my schedule the way I like to do them. I don't like to work out at night. I don't like to work out in the morning. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I love that, because think about this, right? Take someone who loves chocolate. They just absolutely love chocolate or love wine. And then we say, I never want you to have chocolate or wine ever again. What's going to happen? We're going to eat a ton of chocolate and a ton of wine, right? So the key is, I'll give you one more sort of key here, that I like to talk about the idea of buffer foods and trigger foods. Buffer foods are foods you love that also suppress and manage appetite. Trigger foods are foods you love, but send you off of the rails. And so there are some people who can have a little Hershey's Kiss and be fine. And as a result of having that little piece of chocolate, they eat better the rest of the day. That would be a buffer food for that particular woman. Now, there's other people that have that little piece of chocolate, and they would actually go off the rails and go crazy and end up eating more chocolate, have more wine, eat a bunch of junk food later. So is part of what, JJ just said, of like, understanding your own personal preferences. Understand when it comes to food, there will be buffer foods that you really need to include, despite what anyone else tells you that they're bad. If you know they help you eat better, include them. Also understand your trigger foods, the foods that when you include them, they can really put you off the rails. For example, with me, wine is a buffer food. If I have wine with my dinner, it helps me eat less at that meal. I'm less likely to get dessert. I'm less likely to drink a lot. Other people I know, they have wine, and it basically makes them drink more wine, want more dessert, eat more starch, and do all the wrong things. This is a critical understanding. So, and just what JJ said, exercise where you feel the best. If it's in the morning, do it in the morning. If it's at night, do it at night. I also even would say, and I'd be interested to hear your take on this, JJ, there are some people who don't like eating in the morning and some people who don't like eating at night. My approach would be to do the things that keep your hunger, your energy, and your cravings. I call them HEC, HEC, hunger, energy, and cravings, in check throughout the day. So if you're someone who doesn't like to eat breakfast, then maybe you don't eat breakfast, but you also say to yourself, when I don't eat breakfast, is my HEC in check the rest of the day, or is my HEC out of check the rest of the day? If not eating breakfast, you can then get to lunch and are just as likely to have a salad and eat good the rest of the day. That might be a good choice for you and a good metabolic detective work for you. However, if you skip breakfast and then find yourself eating cheesecake later, your HEC being out of check, that's not a good choice for you. And so these are the kinds of things that you want to be filtering through as you start understanding, okay, as a woman, I have this sensitive stress barometer. I know I need to take care of that. And I also need to be working on buffer foods and trigger foods and different food timing and different things like that to understand how I work compared to every other woman.
I loved all of that. That was just absolutely perfect. And I got to go back to the trigger foods thing because it's so right on. You know how they talked about, okay, nuts are so healthy. You should have nut butter. And I kept ending up in front of the refrigerator with a jar of nut butter and a spoon, and trying to get down to and I would literally eat a whole jar of nut butter. It's ridiculous. It's like, stop it.
Yeah, it's funny, but nut butters are my worst too. I just cannot have them in the house. So they are a trigger food for me. I don't care how good they say they are for you. And so they're, it is so funny, right?
Too much healthy food is unhealthy. That is one of the key things. It's like, it could be healthy, but not if you eat the jar of it, the pound of it, the whatever it is. Dark cherries. Dark cherries are another one. I can't have a dark cherry. I remember buying a 2-pound thing from Costco of dark cherries and eating the entire thing, which, by the way, really gives you really like gas that's unbelievable. Just in case you were wondering, don't do it. Like,
I'm going to send you as a gift a whole pound of dark cherries.
I think it's mean to bring food in the house that's your trigger food. No, just because it's healthy, if you can't handle it, it goes out. So I love that description of all of that because it was just perfect.
Yeah, and it's also mean to deny yourself of foods that some people would say are unhealthy that actually act as buffer foods for you. I mean, I know some people. I had one friend who loved, what's that synthetic, nasty marshmallow stuff? I think it's called Fluff or Puff or something like that.
Oh, is that like that fluffer butter?
Yeah, like something like that. And the interesting thing is she would have this in her refrigerator and just take a spoonful of it, like maybe once or twice per day, and it would keep her from binging on other stuff. And it's funny because this is not a food I would ever recommend anyone consume, and I doubt JJ would either. But when you see things like this, you start going, isn't that interesting? So the little bit of calories and insulin kick she gets from that is not nearly as bad as if she doesn't have it and then ends up eating pasta and cheesecake and Doritos and everything else as a result of not having it. So I think we need to give ourselves some room within reason. And this, I think also, by the way, one of the interesting things is that researchers look at the psychology of diets in general and say that all that self-editing is, again, a stress. And so taking some of the self-editing off by having some of these tools, I think, is useful.
Yeah. Oh boy, we beat ourselves up like nobody's business. We'll bring those things in, tell ourselves we're not going to eat them, tell ourselves we're going to have all those salads. We don't do it. Then we're angry at ourselves and we tell ourselves we're terrible. And it's like, so I love the whole detective thing. It's what I teach, where you really figure out which foods work for you, which foods don't, both from, say, a food intolerance standpoint, but also a trigger food standpoint is super important, because just because it's healthy, if you can't handle it, if it's your nut butter story, then stop it.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because it's one subtle distinction, right? When we talk about trigger foods, JJ and I guess we see them. There's two different types of trigger foods. There's trigger foods that are silent trigger foods that, have sort of these silent immune reactions that we might not necessarily be aware of. And then there are trigger foods that sort of kick off hunger, energy, and cravings. And you want to be thinking about both. So like JJ and I, who love nut butters, we don't know, those are definitely causing us to overeat. They also may be causing inflammatory reactions as well, which you do an amazing job in, your books talking about that.
Well, thank you so much. All right. So we, my friend, must hang out, because this is like lame that we have to use podcasts to hang out, and we're just yakking away, going way over time. So, but I'm super excited. I know that everything you said was very intriguing to everybody, and the cool thing is you're going to get more by going to jjvirgin.com/metabolic effect. And what we're going to have there is what is it? You have some training videos. What do you have exactly, Jade?
Yeah, well, one of the things you and I often talk about when someone learns the new sort of science of metabolism, because a lot of this stuff can be very new for people. They're like, wow, I've never heard metabolism talked about in this way. And so what I did is put a course together, a free course that allows you to get this education in depth, so you can begin to sort of get some of the answers to the questions where you're like, oh, I didn't realize, never heard someone talk about metabolism as a stress barometer and how does that work and all those things. Those questions will be answered for you and give you a really good framework that you can now begin to take these pieces that you're learning everywhere from all these different sources of information and put them in a way that you can access them more easily.
Yay. Cool. So again, jjvirgin.com/metabolic effect. I've known you now, what, 15 years? Long time.
It's a long time, and I love you so much, JJ. You are just the best.
I'm not a dude.
I totally miss you, dude.
You're such a dude. You're such a dude. Because you're living in Santa Monica. Oh my gosh. You need to move to San Diego. I keep telling you this. Now I'm going to tell you more.
Exactly.
Right? What happens here? You'll just be like, I guess you do it here too, because everyone's a surfer here. But
San Diego is slightly better, I will have to admit, but they're both wonderful.
no complaints at all. All right. So again, I'm going to remind everybody we have amazing show notes, and we're going to have the link to the super cool video training series. And Jade, you are awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I look forward to hanging out with you in San Diego. That is a big arm twist. Yes, it is.
JJ, thanks for everything you do. Seriously, you're just amazing. Thanks for all the help for everyone and all your work.
Thank you. Now, after the break, we are going to be answering a listener's question, so stay with me.
You already know starting your day off with the right breakfast sets the metabolic tone for your day. And now the perfect and easiest way to do this is with JJ Virgin's all-in-one Paleo-Inspired protein shake. This convenient, nutrient-rich protein-enhanced meal comes in 2 delicious flavors, vanilla and chocolate, and is a huge time saver, ensuring your body uses stored fat as fuel, creates steady, sustained energy, and cuts your hunger and sugar cravings. Visit jjvirgin.com/products today and experience the easy way to lose more weight and keep it off. Visit jjvirgin.com/products and start your day with a healthy shake.
Welcome back. This is the time, my favorite time, where I answer a listener's question. Remember, I always pull these off of social media. So Facebook, JJ Virgin Official, or Instagram, jj.virgin. We look for questions that fit well with whatever I'm talking about. So, of course, I sought out an exercise question for today. This one comes from someone kind of near me over there in Riverside, like 90 minutes away. Joan in Riverside says, JJ, I am training for a marathon, but I heard you say that I shouldn't be doing endurance exercise. So why not? And is there a way I could still do this and stay healthy? All right. So, it's interesting. So I was on Dr. Phil for 2 years back when he first launched the weight loss challenges. And we had 2 gals who wanted to train for a marathon. And we were really clear with her, Robert Reams, who was the trainer on the show, as the nutritionist. And then Dr. Diaz, who was the doc on the show, that this was going to make it super hard for them to be successful on the program. But they persisted and insisted. And actually, they were the 2 that didn't win, that really kind of slid back. And here's why. Endurance training is super stressful on our bodies. And you've already heard that our bodies are much more like Ferraris, Aston Martins, right? And this creates a lot of stress hormones. So what happens when you're doing this moderate intensity endurance training is you create a lot of oxidative stress, which is very aging, and you raise stress hormones and break down muscle, and you actually make your body worse at storing, at burning fat. So you're aging faster, you're lowering your immune system, you're breaking down muscle, you're raising stress hormones. These are all actually the opposite of what we're trying to achieve, right? And I mean, it takes a lot of time. So rather than that, I have people do just what Jade was talking about. Go out and walk your dog, take those leisurely strolls, especially in the sunshine. So you're also getting your vitamin D and boosting your serotonin. Great if you're doing it with your dog. It's perfect. That's why I think everyone should have a dog. That, because it's also a great, doggies are just a great way to just balance out and lower your stress hormones. So My perfect thing would be doing that and then doing some high intensity interval training. Sure, you only need to accumulate 4 to 8 total minutes of bursting. So that's 3 days a week, and it's, 10, 20 minutes. And then you can add some resistance training in after that. But if you do, absolutely, you want to do this marathon, it's a personal best thing. You just want to check it off your bucket list. And I've had people do this. I had another client do this. And so what I did was we did the minimal amount of endurance style training that we needed to do. And then we added in burst style training within that endurance training. And then we made sure we were doing a lot to help her recover from the stress hormone activation. So one of the big key things to do is a lot of antioxidants to help neutralize all the oxidative stress, but also vitamin C, which is super key and really important because it lowers those stress hormones. So I was majorly upping the vitamin C to help there as well. But the biggest takeaway again here is if you're doing that type of training because you think it's going to get you leaner, fitter, healthier, it ain't. You're going to get better off by doing the things that Jade talked about, which is get in your sauna. I'll put in the notes the references for the sunlight and sauna that I use in my garage that I love so much. Get more sleep, 8 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Do some great walking, with your friends, have walking dates, walk your dog. But remember, I don't count that as exercise. That's simple, easy. That's not meant to be out there sweaty hard. Do some things that are relaxing, calming for you. That could be some restorative yoga, could be massage. Find those things that work for you. I personally like massage more than yoga. I admit it. Facials, mani-pedis, that kind of stuff. And then some high intensity interval training and resistance style training, which I like to put together when I'm really time crunched because then I just did a 15 to 20 minute workout. I got everything in. So that's the cool news here is that you can do all this, save a lot of time, get better results. All right. And I have seen it time and time again. People, it's the CrossFit and keto, and we do not wear it well. I see people getting more belly fat, getting, losing muscle and looking more haggard. And I'm pretty sure that's not the outcome you're going for. All right. So thank you so much for that, Joan. And I want to thank Wens and Heels. Wens and Heels. Wens and Heels. I love that. For her 5-star review. I'm just assuming it's a her because it's Wens and Heels. Okay, I'm going to make a guess. Fantastic information, she says. This was an amazing podcast. JJ always delivers the most amazing guest. Honestly, life-changing. And thank you for that. You know what? I do get these great guests. I am so fortunate to know just an amazing crew of people. And I love, love, love sharing them with you. And I also love reading these reviews. And they help a lot, by the way. People trying to decide who they're going to listen to. They see your reviews and they go, I'm in. So if you haven't left one yet, can I ask for a little help here? And leave a review. I'd love to feature you on my next podcast. All right. See you next time.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.